Hello everyone, I'm Anusha from ArchiHub. I'll be your host, moderator, and speaker for the day. We'll talk about mood boards and find narrative to tell with architectural material palette. The point of departure for any creative process begins with a mood board. It can set a style and language for your design process. So let's talk about our host platform ArchiHub. It is a soon-to-be launched mobile application for professionals in construction industry. It is a resource platform where you can find building materials that are in trend, and connect with professionals in the industry. You can connect with vendors, designers, and brands to realize your construction project. You can discover opportunities here and widen your networking source. For more insights, head to our Instagram page and wait for the launch update. And let's talk about mood boards. I'm a very indecisive person, and mood boards are a great way for me that directs my creative flow. For anything, you can use a mood board. You have to know your audience and create a mood board for that. And same way, like I said, right? Purpose. You understand your audience, you can create a purpose for it, and it makes it easy. Your agenda to what the final product is going to be, it to make it easy for you to review if you're going the same direction, right? So now, yeah, put on your thinking hat. You know why it's called thinking hat? There's actually a saying where, the problem solving question, right? There are like six types of problem solving. So here, let's take a guess of what these, okay. I'm going to be showing a bunch of images, okay, and of iconic or pop culture, which might represent um, different kind of era or ideology, movies or series or archetypes, anything. So let me see how familiar are you guys with this and how are you able to relate these images to a particular theme. So this is the time you guys drop in the chat with your ideas and what this represents. I see a lot of green. I feel it's a dark emotion. Now I hope you guys get this. It's pretty simple. And then yes, here's another mood board from an architect. It's not exactly a mood board, but a feel it creates and how you can relate to this architect's work and how much it embeds to your thought process that this kind of work is can be expected from this architect, and he's created a style for himself. So this is Wright's work. So that's the Falling Waters plan. I think as students, when we were first into architecture, or if we were studied architecture, I think he must have been your first favorite architect, the kind of design he does, right? You connect with nature, harmony, organic forms, and everything. He's the great philosopher. Now, Keystone of Moodboard. So here I have Ranjni with me, who will take us forward with talking to us about what Moodboard is.
Hello
Speak
guys,
to us.
good evening. So that was quite nice icebreaker, and as Anusha has laid the ground, let's see what a mood board actually is. So as we can see, these two pictures, this consists of stunning furnitures and light and color and palettes and textures and patterns. So it's basically the glimpse of what your final project may look like, and it sets the flow of your design direction. And let's move on to the next one. And so there are types of mood boards, what we can see. One is physical and one is digital. So physical mood board is basically when you create a mood board on your own. So that is tactile. You can touch it, and the original essence of it you can get from a physical mood board. Where digital, you can do it on the app. It's not time consuming, and there are a lot of apps. You just go and then search in the web, and they'll only give you the format. You just have to put in pictures over there. So, and if someone wants to see the glimpse of the project, you just can instantly share this. So definitely I would choose digital over physical. And so yeah, but then also it's very important to know what and who you are creating the mood board for, and who your client is, and what kind of things does he or she need, and where you're in. So physical and digital mood board mostly depend on that. Now we'll talk about the construct of mood boards. Now we know what is mood board. Let's talk about the things which we need to create a mood board. Definitely typography, the kind of letterings, and then the texture, the color palette. It's a very essential part of a mood board. And then comes pattern and the photographs. Pattern also there are like floral patterns and geometric ones and the very wavy and flowy ones. And photographs, whatever you take, like everyday images, what you take. So all these can consist of a mood board and definitely the things of your own choice, whatever you feel inspiring and interesting. So now we know what is mood board and what are the things that make a mood board. But then the question may rise, so when we're creating a mood board, what are the variables which we need to keep in our mind to create a mood board, right? So first one, definitely the design requirement or the design brief, which we get at the first before starting a design. So jotting it down and creating a mood board out of it, taking some materials accordingly. Context, it's purely architectural, so I'll come to that after explaining all these three. Next one is the complementing element. Suppose you have your mood board ready. Now you want to add on something, but then your add-on shouldn't be very contradictory to the already set materials. It should complement. It should balance the mood or the vibe of the space what you are designing. Next one is environment. What kind of environment do you need to or want to set in your space? If it's very warm kind of nature, you would go for a concrete finish, the gray one, because it emits the sense of being warm. The next one comes with theme or style. There are a lot in the market, like English style or contemporary, wood finish or cotton style. So you need to set your theme or style first and then choose materials and the textures, patterns accordingly. Then comes the context, very, as I say, this is very architectural. So maybe warm and humid climate, you're designing a space in a warm and humid climate. So you choose materials which is very suitable for that and not the materials for the cold and dry. So that is kind of contradictory. So you have to keep it in your mind. So what kind of materials and textures, also the building involved, of the everything you have to keep in your mind. Yeah, definitely. This is a very general one where the mood board, it conveys a lot about the look and feel of the final design. So the first picture which we can see, it's very calm, very soothing kind of interiors and the pastel colors there, the gray, the blue and the brown they have used. The next one, the brown and white one, it's very boho kind of feel, and the other one that depicts a lot about textures and patterns. So choosing your materials, choosing patterns and colors that talk a lot about your design. This is the first step for initiating any kind of design. Now, since we talked about color palettes in our construct of mood board, now we'll talk about the inspirations or of creating a color palette. If you just look around right now, wherever you are sitting, just look around and you can see a lot of colors there, and you create a mood board out of it. I think, Anusha, kitchen is the best place where you get
Where
a
you
lot
get
of colors.
colors, right? The
There are
spices,
spices,
the
yeah,
spices from the kitchen, right?
definitely
Exactly.
spices from the kitchen. Like
Kitchen.
you get a lot of colors, and then you can put that and then create a very wonderful mood board. Then the other picture, it there is ocean and stones and flowers and everything. So it's a tone and hues of blue and a bit of yellow, white. So there is this uh, reference image of the mood board, how it has converted from the color palette, how is that being implemented in the design. So now we'll talk about the process, how to create a mood board from the scratch till the realization of the final project.
So this is going to be more Ranjini will take it forward, but it can be more any creative process like architectural or fashion or a brand identity or anything. Right, Ranjini? Is
Yes.
that we'll talk about because we have our audience are across all kind of profession and we see a lot of design enthusiasts. So let's see how we
Yes. So we'll talk about the patterns, we'll talk about the textures and colors. So maybe you're designing a kitchen and then I want a very rustic look. So I would go for a very wood finish kind of thing and not very laminated and very fancy one. I would like to keep it raw. Or maybe I want to have a very boho living room. So I'll have all the furniture is of made of jute maybe, and then a lot of plants in there and drips. So yeah, kind of
like draw all your inspiration from the littlest things of materials to furniture, right? That's what you
yes,
said. Yeah. Where you can inspiration strikes from anywhere, right?
yeah. So this is the create the material palette, right? So all these we can see like everywhere the bricks and the kind of textures they have used. This is one of the examples of physical mood board. And then I think the next one is the yeah, surface application. That's what I told you. Like if I had to design a kitchen, and I would like to go for the rustic look, and it would be of wood finish.
So, like we said, right, the surface application could be on anything. If you're creating a brand identity, then your surfaces would be your visiting cards, your letterheads, your brochures, and all of that, right? You can even create a mood board to define your brand of what it's going to be. So that is what we're trying to say. The one picture you have a brand identity of a brand, I think it's Moss, and then other pictures you have interior. Somehow they relate, right? You see all the greens and whites in both. Maybe they had a similar mood board design and see that's what it can do. You can have a mood board done and you can the same mood board can be inspired to create an interior space, even a brand item. Now let's see what's next.
This is purely architectural, but then we'll see how to relate with other creative worlds as well, right, Anusha?
Right, let's see. So what would you guys, express in your design? Okay, Ranjini will go on. We'll tell
Okay.
them what we would express in the design.
Yeah. So, experiencing the space, right? So, when we are in any kind of space, say in our home or maybe in the museum, or maybe we are going for a spa, so there is some definite experience we would like to achieve, and that's why we are in that space or we would like to go in that space, right? So, these are the pictures taken from a very famous building designed by Peter Zumthor. It's called Vals. It's in Switzerland. So how do we relate mood board and color palette with it? So the picture which we can see, obviously Switzerland, the atmosphere is the climate is very cold, right?
All the
But then,
mountains, the
yeah,
Alps, right?
obviously.
Yes, the
But
pictures.
then if we look at the pictures, the gray tone of it, the concrete he has used, it's so warm. And then the green with it, the valley, like everything is coming out of stone, and it has grown in the stone, the space itself. And the architect himself wanted his users to feel as if they are walking in the woods. So the space allocation and the way it has been organized, he has kept all these in mind and then created the whole space. It's not about only the planning, but also the implications of the materials and the textures and the colors, definitely, and the location he has chosen here. The kind of lighting, the center,
The track
what should
lights, the
I say?
linear lights, right, in the interior
Exactly.
space. Yes.
The brown and the blue, we know
Mm,
like brown and blue that
yes.
goes very well with each other. So he has also taken the same color, and then
He's
he
created
has
a whole palette with the trees itself, right, from what you see
exactly,
here in the backdrop.
as
Yeah.
we said, like we can choose our color palette from the nature, and he had done exactly the same thing over here. And it's very complementing, definitely the space and the nature, it's very complementing to each other. So the next one is how you want your people to view the space, right? It's FL rights. I'm very keen of FL rights.
See another falling water. Yes.
Yeah, FL rights. Obviously, like this is one of the nicest
I hope all of
residential
you are a
that I've
big
seen
fan of
so
SL
far.
right too, right?
I have come by so far. This is really nice. So this is one kind of residential I adore a lot. And then there is another one. It's called the shoe house. Like this is also a residential. That also represents a residential. But then the form itself, it's so different from each other. But the functions that residential should carry, both of them carry the same. So it depends definitely on the viewers, on the users, about their perspectives. How do they perceive any kind of space? So definitely depending on that, also depending on your wants and needs, you create a space, and when you're creating a space, you create your own mood board.
Okay, guys, now let's see. When do we introduce mood boards in a design process?
I use the design mood board, when just before we present the concepts.
Uh-huh.
So let's say if I have finalized with a client, so after that, what we do is we bring in the mood boards. We start off with the concepts. Then comes our mood boards, and then we'll tell them that this is what I have in my mind. This is what we have in your mind. Your wooden palette or whatever that I'd like to express in the design
Right?
in terms of materials. So I show that there.
All
I tell
right.
them, hey, look, let's say it's a residence, and
Right.
I want sofa from B&B Italia.
Uh-huh. So very
So I tell them,
particular.
hey, look, this is how it's going to look. It's not gonna, how do I say? It's not gonna be a normal sofa where that you're gonna get from any of the close by stores or nearby stores.
Right.
If it
You
has to
bring
be
down.
designer, it has to be designer, and you show
Right.
that there.
Right. So you bring down to elements. So you start putting elements to your ideas and building a
Exactly,
mood board based on that, right? So and it
exactly.
starts way ahead as soon as you get your client's requirement and you have your concepts ready. And then you bring
Mhm.
in your mood board, right? Interesting. Yeah. This is very particular to architectural design development, but you guys, it is could apply to any other design process as well. You would have a concept design, then you will have a schematic of, the next stage of creative process. Except you will not have a construction, administration and bidding, but you would that actually means how you build your project, right? Product or project. It could be a web designing or app designing or like I said, event planning and things like that, right? Your construction could be the end result of any creative process. So this applies to any design or creative field. So tell us what you guys think where mood boarding happens. Circle one, circle two, blue circle, gray circle, anything? I think there are people answering us. After understanding the client's style, after discussion, blue. Someone said on the blue circle, yes. During design development, the blue circle again. After the initial thought and before the initial design, yes. Beginning of design process, yes. Yes, guys. So let's see where mood boarding happens. So ideally, if we start mood boarding right after schematic design, right, it would make the client, your life, and everyone's life easier to go about the entire process. Right? Most of you do use this process. Yes, most of you do place this even before it. That's actually good. The sooner you do the mood board, the better streamlined process you have. Otherwise, the design goes all over your head, goes like that. Now it goes to choosing architectural material, more deep dive into architectural process. If you guys have any question on, how it works or applies to any other creative field or this thing, please put up your questions. We'll try to answer as much as we can to what extent we can be helpful and ideas. Right now, let's see choosing architectural materials. What happens from mood boarding, from schematic process to choosing architectural materials, right? So you have your design. So this is where the magic happens. You have your design, you have your thought process. Like I think Rafi pointed out, he started a mood boarding for one of his project, I believe, with a sofa, right? You can start definition with elements in a project, right? Your abstract idea is defined to reality only when you start applying materials to your project. Otherwise, it's still an artwork on the paper or your digital platform, right? Only when you start applying materials, you can actually go ahead and build it and visualize it. This is where the magic happens, like I said. And how do you make these choices? What should direct your material choices? How would you pick materials? Imagine if this sketch is, if it's not painted, if it's not defined with colors, if it's just a black and white line sketch, what would you imagine of this space to be? Right now, I feel like there's a lot of grays and a very subtle look, don't you think, Ranjni? If I had to imagine this as a colorless and material, I couldn't imagine what would feel like of how, like how you were talking about experiencing a space, right? I might not be able to tell, right? So that's
Yeah.
what choosing materials helps you guys.
Yeah, it's very blank, I feel.
Yeah, and you spoke very strongly of how pattern, colors, and textures help you define a mood board and correct. I mean, take your project to a
Yeah.
idealized, right? And selection process. That's a whole new, whole different level of talking about materials, right? You have to look at aesthetic values, structural properties, physical properties of material, and cost. That I'm not going to talk about it, but yeah, that's a whole lot of different thing. And if you have a client on a budget, I think you might have a very tough time looking for options, right? I think Aki have eventually will solve that for you guys. You
Yes.
can look for options, you can look for materials with costing, I think. Yeah, let's deep dive. So now I'm going to keep asking more questions now. So we have inspiration here on the left side, and then we have bunch of materials here. So what does this remind you of, guys? What does this inspiration board talks about? I see a lot of green plants, then subtle pastel greens, defined lines, basically like
A very
stripes here.
subtle vibe, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
very.
look.
And I think there's some jute light hanging there with jute material, and I see this might be again jute or material like that.
Mm-hmm.
Not able to make out, but I can surely see from the thread work and the texture it has. It feels like very, I think hemp. Yes.
Yeah.
What do you think this style would talk about? The fabrics here. Anyone from the audience would want to say how this could be inspired from, or where this could be inspired from?
Or what kind of theme this image represent, you know?
Represent. Like how Ranjini explained the process, right? Guys, you have your inspiration, and then you do the material palette, and then goes the application. We have someone with an answer inspired from nature or Zen style. Very true. A very minimalistic, very towards the nature, earthy colors. Very true. Inspired from nature. Yes. Bagui says Scandinavian style. I believe so, right? Don't you guys think it's Scandinavian? With the green, especially. The greens here and the beige.
Yeah, maybe.
It is Scandinavian. So if you see how the colors are even inspired, the fabrics, the wood here, the use of leather and hemp, right? It mostly gives you that soothing, earthy tones style. So this is how I like again explained and break it down for you guys. You have your inspiration board. You draw elements like a furniture element or plants or like plants, and you can take inspiration from nature, from an artwork or material. It could be anything. You draw your inspiration board. Put all your things that you would want to introduce in your project, and go on to build your material palette inspired from this. And then when you start applying to your interior surfaces, right? Interior spaces, or could be any uh, defined architectural typology. And that's when you get a full product out of it, like as what you had imagined in the beginning to an end process. This is where mood boarding helps you define the style of it. And here is a very popular style. How many of you guys adore Art Deco? Oh, I love this style. The bold geometric lines, like the patterns, the repetitive patterns. Like if you had to derive a mood board from an Art Deco style, I'd probably say this is how you would do the bold green colors, introduce, uh,
I think the shiny
luxuries.
materials also, the
Yes,
very shiny surface.
luxuries, velvet, gold foils, gold plated. and the chevron, white and black marble, all of this, right?
Yes.
So this is how, guys, you have take if you're looking forward from a inspired mood board from an inspired style, you would take elements that represent that style, right? So mood boarding helps you direct your interior process towards that. And so let's deep dive into spaces and surfaces of how you would apply these material and whatever we've seen in the last couple of slides to the interior space. If you see, like I said, the earlier example had an interior space with textures applied with grays and the blues, right? Now I have an example where there is no material applied, but this is how mood boarding starts. You get your spaces together. So this is where between your schematic and detailed design, right? This is the stage where your interior project would be like. So you would want to see what are your horizontal surfaces, your floors, your cabinet tops, your tabletops, your ceiling. What are your horizontal surfaces? You would want to identify that. Those are your walls. I mean, your vertical surfaces would be your walls, and then doors and shutters for your cabinets, all your vertical surfaces, and complementing structures like your furniture, all of this. So you understand how these work, and this is how the initial process will be. And if you place your materials and understand your surfaces, this is what your end result would be. I mean, I think there's some design changes has happened. We've moved to an island counter to a dining table, but otherwise, no, we're not talking about design process yet. We're just talking about how material application transforms the space. These are the things you would take care of when you start applying materials from your mood boarding to your interior space. And what happens in your exterior space? Facade designing is a whole different character and architectural process.
Hi, Anusha.
Hi.
Yeah, so at least for interiors, what I think is, it is a safe boarding for consider a residence
Mm-hmm.
where the lady of the house has seen one particular cabinet in somebody else's house.
Yes.
The man of the house has seen something in somebody else's office, and they have different ideas altogether for interiors. So,
True.
kind of mood board is a safe place for architects and interior designers in interior spaces.
Yes. So to define clashing clients, right, with different ideologies, I think it'll help us solve their
Yes, yes.
differences. Basically, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah, yes.
That's nice. Yes, it is a safe place, guys. If you start mood boarding and convincing your clients ahead of it, what is the end product is going to be, it will be a safe place. Again, exterior, like I said, facade designing is a whole different thing, but these are the things that you would keep in mind when you start applying materials. Again, define your vertical and horizontal surfaces and your other projections, wall hangings, overhangs, and all of that. So that's how materials applied for exterior design. I think we're drawing close to our presentation. And yes, we are. So acceptable practice, right? When mood boarding, it is not a defined. There is no hierarchy in defining a mood board. Like you can go freestyle in here. You can mix and match elements. I mean, don't mix and match style. Follow a singular style, but elements, things like what inspires you, like we saw the constructs, right, from typography, patterns, textures. Mix and match things and identify what works for you, what doesn't. So I wouldn't say think out of the box, but have a thought out process. Like think of why a certain material would go with particular thing. If you're looking for a wall surface, and if you have to match your flooring material to a particular room, think out why they will work together and why they might not. It is very essential you pair right materials together, otherwise, you would not be able to express how a user will feel in the space, and you would not be able to create how the examples like Ranjani gave, right, from Falling Waters interiors to the Peter Zunka's spa place in Switzerland, all of that, right? It has been well thought out in from material application and everything. And it's easy to, when you have lot of inspirations, you might, end up like taking inspiration from this thing, and it might end up, copying or plagiarize a particular mood board. So do not, just take a mood board and start your process. Take out elements, think out why it would be necessary for your project, why this has inspired you, and what element are you going to use in your process. So these are the things that you need to keep in mind when you start mood boarding, guys.